Hi guys, this is Rich with Wild Wonderful Weekends, and I'm here today at Grandview State Park, West Virginia to make a short video on the latest addition to my video equipment gear. It's the Insta360 camera, and this is the first 360 camera that I've owned, and I'm really impressed with some of its features. It's not all rainbows, and I'll tell you a couple things towards the end of the video that really drive me crazy about this camera, but it does do a lot really well, and it's excellent for capturing unique and dramatic footage. And I figured this would be a great place to go over some of the stuff that it can do. So we'll start with a time lapse along one of the trails here, and then I'll move on to some other things that it can do also. Let's take a look. Photos and videos shot with the Insta360 can be edited on your mobile device, on a PC, or on a Mac using Insta360 Studio. Once you open Insta360 Studio, you will need to open the file or files you want to work with. You can tell the app where to search by selecting Local Files, Camera Files, Favorites, or Exports. I've already copied my photos and videos from the camera to the Mac, so I'm going to choose Local Files. Now I can browse to the location of the file I want to edit. I know that my video ends in 002. You'll notice there are actually two files that end in 002, and that's because both lenses on the camera each record their own file. But when you open the video in Studio, it combines those into one working clip. Now, this isn't going to be an exhaustive tutorial on Insta360 Studio, but more of an introduction on the basics of editing 360 video and some other cool things you can do with this software. I'll be making more videos over the next few weeks that get into the details of some of my favorite features of this camera and software combo. The video opens in Reframe view by default, but you can toggle between this view and 360 view by clicking the buttons at the top of the screen. We're going to be working in Reframe view for now. The Insta360 records everything in all directions at the same time, so you can click and drag in the video screen to change the view. You can also scroll to zoom. Just below the video screen, we have the timeline and the scrubber. Because there is quite a bit of footage I don't need here at the beginning, I'll move the scrubber to where I want my video to start. Next, I'll click the Mark as Trim Start button next to the VCR buttons to tell the app what it should consider the beginning of my video. Now when I click play, the video starts there. I'll go ahead and mark my trim end while I'm at it. A quick note about the scrubber. If you hover over the timeline, the scrubber moves with your mouse and a small video preview appears just above the scrubber. If you click and drag on the scrubber, the video preview happens in the main window. It's low resolution since it's only a preview. In fact, the resolution in the editor is lower resolution than the video will be after export, so don't be alarmed if things don't look quite as good as you'd expected. It will improve after the export. Okay, so now I have my start and end marked. I click play, and as you can see, the software and camera do a pretty good job of stabilizing the picture. In the lower right of the video screen, we see the current aspect ratio is 16:9. You can change this to suit your needs. You could make it 1:1, for instance, if you were planning to post your video to Instagram. But we'll stick with 16:9 for now. I hit the rewind button again to move the playhead to the beginning of the video clip. We need to set the view to the way we want it to be when the video starts. We do this with keyframes. To add a keyframe, click the plus sign in the lower right of the screen. Now we can click and drag and scroll in the screen to set the view the way we want. Or if we need more precision, we can use the controls in the little pop-up window. We can click and drag over the numbers, or we can double-click a number and enter a new number manually. Also, we can choose between fisheye view, crystal ball, tiny planet, and natural. Natural has the more narrow field of view and also less distortion. I'm going to click that to start. At times, the view may point in a direction we don't want. To fix this, we can just add another keyframe, correct the view, and move on. The closer together keyframes are, the faster the transition. So if we move the keyframes farther apart, the slower the transition. Also notice there is a line connecting each keyframe. Clicking that line brings up a context menu where we can choose the way the transition occurs. By default, the transition occurs at a constant speed. It's usually more natural looking to choose fade in and fade out. You can experiment with the other transition curves on your own, but for this video we'll stick with the fade in, fade out. There may be certain parts of the scene we want to draw attention to. The way that we do this is to add a keyframe before the camera view should change, and then add another keyframe where we want the camera view to change. So, for example, suppose I want the camera to look at this cave on the left as we move past it. First, I would put a keyframe a little upstream of the place I want the camera view to start changing. Then I would move to the point in the video where I want the view to be facing the cave and add a new keyframe. This time I would adjust the camera view to be exactly like I wanted at that point. And I'll add one more to look back at the cave as we move a little past it. And finally position the camera view to face in the direction I'm moving again. So let's play through that and see how it looks so far. Okay, so I've added a couple more keyframes along the video, and now that I'm in the stone tunnel, I want to add keyframes to have the view spin around a full 360 degrees. To do this, I add a keyframe just before I want the spin to start. I play the video forward to where I want the spin to end, and add another keyframe. And this time I click and drag the view to spin it all the way around. Again, I choose fade in, fade out to make it look more natural. And we can play it to check it out. Keyframes allow you to be very creative in what you choose to show in your videos, and you'll get more ideas as you become familiar with how they work. One more transition I would like to put in this video is transitioning to a tiny planet view. I'll add a keyframe here. Then another to move into tiny planet view. Then another keyframe where I want to start transitioning out of tiny planet view. And one more to return to fisheye view. Okay, now that we have our keyframes in place, it's a good idea to watch the video once more at normal speed to make sure it's set up the way we want. I've already done this, so let's just go ahead and add our time shift effect now. Click the rewind button again to go to the beginning of the clip. Then click the time shift icon in the lower right of the screen. It looks like a lightning bolt. And a red highlight will appear on the timeline with a number followed by the letter X to denote the speed. Hover over the red highlight with your mouse and you'll be able to choose where the end of the time shift will go. In this case, I want the entire clip to be sped up, so I'll move my mouse to the end and left click to set it. When you apply a time shift effect that is 2 times normal speed or faster, the software automatically turns on digital motion blur, which is indicated by this bouncing ball icon here in the lower right of the screen. This effect doesn't show up in preview and is only applied during export. I personally don't like the way this effect looks, so I always turn it off by clicking the icon again to turn it white. Now I'll click the red highlight to activate the time shift controls. And here I can delete the time shift altogether if I choose by clicking the trash can icon, or I can adjust the speed. I'm going to set my speed to 6 times normal speed, which seems to work best for walking time-lapse videos. I could crank it all the way up to 64 times normal speed and preview it, but the preview won't actually play back at 64 times normal speed, so you wouldn't see what the final video will actually look like, and it can be a little deceptive. Okay, if we have everything the way we want it, we can click File and Export. We want to make sure Reframed Video is selected when exporting keyframed videos where specific views have been defined. I'll cover exporting 360 videos in just a bit. We can give our file a custom name, choose the location where we want the exported video file to be stored. A bitrate of 75 is fine. You can crank that up to 100 if you like, but anything over that is really overkill. The resolution defaults to 1920 by 1080, but I'm going to change mine to 4K by making it 3840 by 2160. And I'll leave the encoding at H246. Click Start to Export, and you'll see a status bar with a percentage number at the bottom left of the screen. Once it's finished exporting, we can go view our video. So that's a quick overview of how keyframing and time shifting works in Insta360 Studio. And just using those tools, you can do a lot with your video clips. Another thing I really like about this camera and software combo is its ability to easily create Tiny Planet photos. To do that, you simply open a photo you've taken with the Insta360. In this case, I know my photo ends in the DNG file extension, so I'll select it. The photo loads into the preview just like the video did, and after a few seconds, Insta360 Studio applies an AI exposure correction called Pure Shot, which is indicated by this little icon down in the bottom left of the preview. And it generally does a great job of making your photo really pop. From here, you can click and drag and scroll just like you would a video preview. Once you get your photo the way you want, click the Take a Snapshot icon in the lower right of the preview screen to save the photo. It's super simple and gives you a lot of creative potential. Here's a shot I took of me standing on the South Side Bridge in Charleston, West Virginia that I thought came out pretty neat. Okay, the last thing I want to cover in this video is 360 video exports. They're also really simple. You just open your video file like before, set the beginning and end points, then export it. This time be sure to choose 360 video instead of Reframe. You can provide a name and location, but accept the rest of the defaults. These videos can be viewed on YouTube, Facebook, and other places that play 360 videos. The viewer can click and drag to see everything in your scene. Or they can be viewed on YouTube VR using a VR headset like the Meta Quest 2. And you can look around the scene just like you were there. I'll post the link to this 360 video clip in the comments section so you can check it out for yourself in YouTube or YouTube VR. So what are the things I don't like about this camera? Well, first is that the camera will not work unless it's activated via a mobile device. And not all devices are compatible, so be very careful not to buy this camera unless your device is on the compatibility list. Once the camera is activated, it works with or without the mobile device, but until it's activated, it will not work at all. I'm not sure why they chose to limit this camera in that way. The second thing, and I learned this the hard way, your SD card needs to be fast and have at least 128 gigabytes of memory. I use a 128 gig SanDisk Extreme. If you use a smaller or slower card, the Insta360 will occasionally, and without warning, simply stop recording. It's a good idea to carry a backup SD card as well, and if you're recording video, check in on it from time to time to make sure it is indeed still recording. Lastly, and this is more of a matter of getting used to the software, Insta360 Studio will not allow you to link multiple clips together. You can only edit a single clip at a time. And you cannot add music to your clips. To do this, you must export your clips to another video editing suite. So that's it, guys. All in all, it is a great little camera, and I definitely recommend getting it as long as you can overcome some of those shortcomings. Have extra SD cards on you for sure in case you have read and write problems, and make sure that your phone is on the compatibility list before you purchase this camera. And if you enjoy these videos, please like and subscribe. Take care.